And thank you for joining us today. I'm going to be your host. My name is Joy Newholt. You may know me as the Senior Training and Consulting Manager. I'm also one of the co-owners of CompuEase and Great Canadian. I have been doing this for over 20 years, and today I still have just as much passion about helping people and training people as I did 20 years ago. Today, our presenter is going to be Christine Irons. She's had over 20 years experience working at York University as a trainer and doing course development. And she joined us in 2018 when she moved back to Ottawa. We're using Zoom today, so everyone, please feel free to pop your questions into the chat. Mel is our producer today. So if you have any technical issues, you can direct your questions to her and she'll try to help you. If you're listening to your audio on your phone and you're hearing an echo, just make sure you mute your computer speakers. If you have any technical issues and you kind of leave and come back, just use the same connection information to get back into the webinar. And we're going to change things up a tiny bit today. As you put your questions in while Christine's speaking, if she can, she's going to answer them while she's doing the webinar. If they're a little more complicated or they're not quite related, we'll still answer all your questions at the end. So a lot of times people want to know, like, who is Great Canadian, who is CompuEase? So I started Great Canadian in 2002, and it services all of North America doing training, consulting, and development. CompuEase has been around actually since 1988, and it also does training in the Ottawa and Quebec area. And we also have a training center downtown Ottawa. But what we always tell clients, the most important thing is what do we feel makes us unique is that we have a really strong customer service. We're very responsive. All our trainers and consultants are very highly skilled. They have lots of like real world experience. Our public training, we always guarantee to run our classes. We have a learn or come back free policy. Our public and private training always has after training support, and we have lots of soft skill and software training courses. So let's jump into our webinar. I'm going to pass everything over to Christine.
Hey guys. All right, so the way we're going to organize this webinar is I'm going to start with doing a basic overview of a whole bunch of the most popular, I would say, Microsoft applications. We'll start with Word, move into Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, some of your standard ones. It looks like, and we're going to do OneNote as well. OneNote's missing there. And then we'll move into some more specific, kind of more complicated software. But, you know, we do have training courses for like Access, Project, and then two of the applications To Do and Planner, because I'm asked a lot about them when I do the training. And we actually do show them in the 365 training, but it's the To Do, the planner, and I'll have to bring you onto the Office 365 website to show you those, but just give you an idea. But it'll be just really short descriptions about what these applications are for, because not everybody works with Visio. Oh, and Visio isn't there. Visio, Planner, To Do, things like that. So I'll give you a short description. After I run through all of those applications, then I'm going to go through and show you that there are some gray areas or some overlaps between the applications, because again, I'm asked a lot, you know, I have this project to do. Should I use Word? Should I use PowerPoint? Do I need to purchase Visio? Do I need to purchase Microsoft Project? Things like that. So there are some major topics that you can see in on this slide here down below that I'm going to cover some of those gray areas. Okay, but let's start with sort of the introducing of the applications. I will run through those introducing, like I said, really quickly, but if you guys have questions, pop them into the chat, okay? And if I can cover them, I'll cover them like Joy said. So I'm going to take over sharing my screen. Bear with me for 1 second. All right. So hopefully you can see my screen now. I'll just confirm with Joy. You can see my shared files here. Perfect. Okay, guys. All right. So I'm going to start with Word. So I've created some documents in the different applications that I can just open up and show you around. So I'll start with a Word document. Microsoft Word. Now, of course, everything's going to open on my other screen. I'll have to drag it over. But Microsoft Word it's called a word processor. And you know, it's funny, years ago, all the training I did was in Word. Everybody wanted Word, not a lot in Excel. I find Excel seems to be more popular than Word now, but people are not using Word to the extent that Word can be used. It's a word processor that can create professional looking business documents. So it's not just for your letters and your memos, which you can use it for, but you can do things like professional looking reports, resumes, beautiful formatted documents, because there's a lot of formatting built in with your fonts and your paragraph formatting up on your ribbons up here. Word comes with pre-designed templates. Like the document that I've got here that I chose to show you was actually loaded from a business report template. So I didn't have to create any of this. I could just fill it in, and it looks like I did so much work, but you don't have to start from scratch. But basically in Word, if you go to File, New, it comes with a ton of templates that you can choose from. And if what you want to use you don't see here in the list, you can do a search and it will go online and search for templates. Okay, but it is for creating your professional quality documents. I'm going to close Word for now. Like I said, I'm just touching on these quickly. It's not full training in these applications, but I'll move on to Excel. For those of you that haven't seen Excel. Whoops, actually, I'm opening up a document. There you go. Okay. So Excel is an electronic spreadsheet software. It's kind of like the old, I don't know if you guys remember, if you're old enough to remember the old ledger booklets that we used to do, the old ledger books where we'd fill things in with pen or with pencil, probably with pencil because you'd have to erase a lot. But Excel's the electronic version of that. So it comes already pre-set up with columns by your letters up at the top and rows by numbers. And then where columns and rows intersect, you have a bunch of cells. And Excel, really, its main purpose is to organize data, financial information. That's its strength. It's budget work, it's calculations. It makes doing your calculations and budget work so easy. But like I was saying to you guys, and I'm going to discuss this, there are overlaps and there are gray areas. Some people use Excel not just to put their budget information in, but it could just be like a database, like you want to keep track of things like a name and an address list. And because your columns and your rows are already set up for you, it's so easy just to go in and fill in first names, last names, addresses, whatever you have to fill in. And that's absolutely fine. But its power and its strength is to do your budget work and summarizing your data as well. So you could have rows and rows and rows of data, but you want to summarize it in pivot tables, which you guys see here. Pivot tables are so popular in Excel. So pivot tables, and you can create visualizations, charts. This is a pivot chart based on the pivot table, which is based on the data over here on the left. So you take data like this and look, in the end, you can create a chart out of it and really show a visualization of the story that you want to get across. Okay, so that's Excel. Now, PowerPoint. I'm going to load my accessibility presentation. We do that at teach accessibility, digital documents. Just while it's loading, I'm going to let you know it's taking a while. But making your documents accessible for people that have hearing or visual disabilities. So PowerPoint allows you to create professional looking slide presentations. So if you're going to give a talk, I would say most of the time you're creating a presentation because you're going to give a talk in front of an audience and you want the slide presentation to kind of support what you're talking about. Some people create presentations that they're just going to share online. Maybe you're not actually going to get up and do a talk, but you can create these slides and you can save them. You could save them as a PowerPoint and put them up on a website, but you can also convert your PowerPoint presentations to videos. It's really easy to do, to create it to a video file, and you could have it run automatically from slide to slide to slide. You can even narrate your slides. So everything that you would have said while you were giving your presentation slide by slide, you can narrate it onto your slides so that you don't even have to be there. People can just watch the presentation and they can hear what you're talking about. You can add pictures, images. I'm going to talk about what smart art is. You can add animations. Like if I run this one slide here, there's animations. So as I click, things can come in. You can add slide transitions. So as you go from slide to slide, how does the slide, the entire slide come in? Does it drop in from the top? Does it dissolve in? You know, anything to catch people's attention. But yeah, it's a slide presentation there to back up what information you're trying to get across to your audience. It's a lot of fun too, because you're doing a lot with graphics and you're being creative. Think of different ways you can get people to remember your information. Okay, I'll close PowerPoint. Okay, those are the three big ones. Those are the ones that come with Microsoft Office when you install Microsoft Office that most people use. Now, Outlook is another application that is used on a daily basis. And I have my Outlook open, but most of my Outlook, there's nothing confidential in here. As you can see, I do a lot of teaching, so it's mostly invitations and confirmations of courses. But Outlook mainly is used for emails, sending and receiving emails. But they call it a personal information manager because it's not just emails. When you have Outlook, you have access to calendaring. If I go to my calendar, I have a very pretty calendar because I color code everything. Actually, I haven't done some color coding lately, but you can see it's very pretty. You have access to contacts if you want to keep track of your contacts and all the information about it. And you can also create simple task lists. So they call it a personal information manager to help you organize yourself. Now, I am going to show you guys Teams in a few minutes, but one of the big questions I get is, what is the difference between Outlook and Teams? And should I be using more of Teams or should I be using Outlook? We'll discuss that all with the gray area. Right now, Outlook is mail, calendaring, contacts, and tasks, basically. All right, I'm not going to close that. I'll just move it over. I'm going to move on to, well, we're just talking about Teams. I'm going to move on to Teams. And I have, again, I've loaded Teams into, well, I'm just so it doesn't confuse you, I'm logged into my Teams using a student 1 account. We have a student 1, student 2, student 3. So when you see conversations over here on the right, you don't see actual names there, student 1, student 2. But when you're in Teams, you'll see people's names, your co-workers' names. But what is Teams? Teams is a chat-based collaboration platform. So the idea behind Teams is you're collaborating with other people, where I see Outlook more of your own personal information manager. You're sort of in your own Outlook, your own email, your own calendar. Teams is more where you're involving other people. You can chat in real time, have personal chats with individual people or groups of people. You can have online meetings. Probably a lot of you guys, when we were thrown into, 2 years ago with COVID, thrown into working at home, a lot of people were scrambling, a lot of companies trying to figure out how we can stay in touch with all the people that we used to see every day in the office. And Teams was the big one that everybody turned to, because we're already using the Microsoft applications like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So why not use Teams? So there's your live chat. There's your online meetings, your video meetings. You can do it as audio meetings. It also allows you to upload and store files. So if any of you guys use SharePoint or OneDrive, it's the same type of thing in Teams, where you can upload files. Anybody that has access to the team that you upload the files to, they can open your files. You can collaborate on the files. So you could actually have, 5 people at the same time open the same file and work on them. And you can see where somebody's working, who it is, what they're doing real time on these files. You can share your screens during meetings, just like I'm doing with this Zoom meeting. I could share my screen. There are whiteboards, but it's a whole collaboration system. And also the other thing with Teams is, if your company pays just a little bit more money, it's not a lot actually, just a little bit more, you could get licensing to the Microsoft 365. I think it's called Business Voice, I think is what it's called. And then there's no need for a telephone system where you work, because you could actually use Teams like a telephone. You get a dial pad and you can call people's cell phones. You can call their landlines. So it's like one-stop shop for everything communication. If you guys ever used Slack, Slack was kind of around, I think it was around before Teams, but people were using Slack a lot. It's very similar to Slack if you've used it. All right. Next one, OneNote. This is another one that I'm asked about a lot. Now, OneNote, you can see my screen here. When I've been loading files, I double click on an individual file. OneNote is a little bit different. When you save a OneNote notebook, and I will explain what OneNote is, but when you save a OneNote notebook, scrapbook kind of, it actually creates a folder as opposed to just out here an individual file. So I have one OneNote notebook called My Notebook, and you can see I have a folder here called My Notebook. Now, when I double click it, I then have a bunch of little files. These are all, I'll show you when I open it up, separate tabs inside my OneNote notebook. And it really doesn't matter which one you double click on, or you could just click open the notebook, like open notebook, it will just open your notebook. But it really doesn't matter which one of these you double click on, it will just go to that tab. So for example, if I double click this file here called More Tricks, I'll show you OneNote, and it should take me right to my More Tricks tab. So there you go. I'm on my More Tricks tab. But a OneNote notebook is a digital notebook or scrapbook. Sometimes I like to call it a scrapbook. It's kind of like, if you remember back to high school, I always explain this when I'm doing my OneNote training, because I used to do this in high school. You remember in August, before you had to go back for your next year of high school, you knew what courses you're going to have to take. So you'd go over to, okay, I'm not going to age myself and mention stores at the time, but you'd go over to the store and you would buy either one binder that you're going to do all your notes for all your courses, or if you want to be really organized, buy a separate binder per course, buy your tabs to put in your binders, put your sheets of paper into your binders, and then you take your notes in your course. But then, of course, because everything's hard copy, you run out of paper. So you've got to go back to the store and get more paper, or you need more tabs, or you decide when you decided to buy that one big binder for all your courses that, oh, what a dumb idea. I can't fit everything in here. I really should have bought a whole bunch of separate binders. And then you've got to go out and buy a whole bunch of separate binders. OneNote is the electronic version of that. You can create as many notebooks as you want, which are like your binders. You can put as many tabs to organize yourself into your binders or your notebooks as you need. You can always add more if you need them. You don't have to run to the store. And then you have paper. It's like sheets of paper, but it's pages within your tabs where you can keep track of notes if you want to take notes. The notes can either be typed in, they can be handwritten notes, because you can get the OneNote app for a tablet or your phone. So if you're in class, if you're like a university student, you can actually write notes and then you can convert your handwriting to text. It's so cool. And you never run out of paper, you never run out of tabs. But it's like taking your binder and flipping it on its side, because as you can see, the tabs are across the top. So if you had a binder, it would be, you know, the other way around, where your tabs are kind of sticking out the right. But this is where your tabs are across the top. So I could flip between my tabs, and within a tab over on the right are your pages, and you can have as many pages under that tab as you want. So I'm on here, the economics page. I can go to the biochemistry notes. I could have a to-do list, but you can insert text. You can insert documents, like if you have a Word document, PDF file, you can insert Excel files, Visio, all in here to store it. You can insert pictures. You can do equations. You can insert tables. Like basically you can, audio, video. If it's electronic, basically you can insert it. And then one of the most powerful things about OneNote is the search capability. You can search for anything and you will never lose anything. So even if you're not that organized in your OneNote notebook, you'll never lose anything. Not only does it search just your regular text and your documents and things like that, but if you have pictures, so if you're walking along and you saw a picture of an upcoming band, you guys know I love music, a band is going to be playing somewhere. And you take a picture of it so you don't forget, and you upload it into your OneNote notebook. There's something called OCR, optical character recognition, built into OneNote, and it can convert text that's in photos to text that it understands. So if you do a search for a keyword, if it's in the picture, you'll even come up with it. It will find the picture for you because it can read the text, and you can actually even extract the text. I mean, OneNote is so cool. It's getting so popular now. Okay, I'll close OneNote. The next one I'm going to show you, let me go back a step, is a Visio file. So I have one here I just did for fun. Of course, again, oh no, it's loading on the screen. Okay. So Visio is, okay, I'll tell you this. Whenever I ask my classes, the ones that come to take Visio training, I'll say to people, what do you think Visio's for? And I will always get two answers. Now, I don't know why my chat is not up here. It's strange. So I hope you guys aren't putting chats in, because my chat. Oh, so yeah, sorry, you guys have been putting chats in. Lotus 123. Yes, I remember Lotus 123. Dashboards are great in Excel. I love dashboards. If someone sends you something, can you print it from Teams? Yeah, you should be able to, because like if it's a Word document and it's in Teams, when you load it, it opens up the online Word toolbar or ribbon system. You should be able to print it. You know what? I'll check afterwards. I've never actually had a reason to print something from Teams. It's funny, you know, something as simple as that, and I've never printed. But Linda, I'll check it, okay, when we go back to that. But you should be able to. I'd be surprised if you couldn't. Visio, yeah. So the two answers that I get is allows you to create flow charts and org charts, organization charts. And yes, org charts and flow charts. But you know what? Visio is actually a diagramming software. It allows you to create diagrams, and it's not necessarily flow charts and org charts, even though, yeah, it's really powerful for that. You can create building plans, floor plans, 3D maps. It's a diagramming software. You could create posters if you want to create posters. It's just that it has a lot of built-in pictures like symbols and shapes and things like that to make it so much easier to put this all together for you. But definitely flow charts, organization charts are big ones. All right. Now the last, oh no, not the last. What we're going to do now is get into, I'll just touch on these quickly. Some of the more specific software where you would need a little bit more training, they're a little bit more complicated, but you know, you do training and you'll be able to master it. Okay. I'm going to start with Access. I have an Access database here called The Great Outdoors. A database is it's a software that allows you to store data. So yes, Excel lets you store data. But Access, if you learn how to create a database, because there is a big learning curve, it's actually easier to input your data. If you have lots and lots of data, it's easier than if you were to do it in Excel. It's easier to extract your data. So when you want to summarize it, you only want to see the customers from Toronto, something like that. You can create, just like in Excel, you have filters, you can create queries in Access, but the thing is you save your queries, your filters, which means if you ever want to see your Toronto customers again, the query's already there, you just double click it. Whereas if you were in Excel, you'd have to recreate that filter every time you wanted to see it. You can create forms to fill in your information through forms. Like you guys have filled in online forms. You know what it's like typing in fields and form fields and using checkboxes. You can do that in Access. You can create reports. So it's more of a learning curve. It's more work to put into creating the database. But once it's created, after that, your life is so much easier because everything's created for you. So putting your data in and extracting your data, it's like bang, bang, bang. Okay, so it is for storing data. Microsoft Project. Microsoft Project is when you have large projects to keep track of. So the tasks involved in a project, the resources that are doing the tasks, so the different people that are assigned to different tasks, or the equipment that is assigned to tasks, that kind of thing, the costs associated with your different tasks. Project is used a lot by project managers, definitely. But just your sort of your regular administrative person, also they take the project training, because you don't have to get very, very involved in project, like tying up your costs and things like that. You could use Microsoft Project to lay out your tasks. It makes it easy to put them into phases, like groupings of tasks, durations, start times, end times. And Microsoft Project automatically creates what you see on the right here called Gantt charts. And Gantt charts show your tasks in bar format, like depending on how long your task is, how short your task, as well as the relationships between your tasks. So if one task gets delayed, it might delay another task, which might delay another task, which might end up pushing out your project end date. And it's easy to keep your eye on your Gantt chart and see if your project end date is going past what it should be going past, or you're going to have to do some tweaking in your project to try to bring that end date back. So it gives you a good visual, and you can create reports. It just really depends on how involved you want to get. Just keep track of your tasks because you like Gantt charts. Perfect. Want to get more involved, assign resources to tasks? Perfect. Want to get really involved and also tie up all your costs? Go ahead. You can create reports, charts. All right. Now, the last two, like I said, they are 365, Microsoft Office 365 applications. So if you guys, I know a lot of you are using 2013, 2016 software, but I am actually in a lot of my courses now, I'm getting a lot of people that have upgraded to the 365 version, which, by the way, has been out since 2016. So it's not brand new. It's been out for years, but I understand that the government departments, because of security and things like that, they're a bit slower to go to the 365. But eventually, you guys should. I'm going to bring you to the office.com website. So I went to office.com and I signed into one of our student accounts, and I loaded 2 different applications. So on the office.com website, you get a little waffle up here. You can click on your little waffle, and office.com 365 comes with tons of applications, including online Teams, online Word, online Excel. You can access anywhere in the world, but it also comes with To-Do and Planner. So I'm going to start with To-Do. Microsoft To-Do is taking over the Outlook tasks that I showed you guys. So when I showed you guys Outlook and I said you can keep a simple task list, eventually when you guys go to 365, you're going to be using Microsoft To-Do. And To-Do is far more powerful than your simple task list in Outlook. Microsoft To-Do allows you not just to create a simple task list like you see here, but you can really organize yourself by creating groups of task lists. So I created a group called Create an Amazing YouTube Channel. And within that group, I could add tasks within a task. So if I click on decide what the channel is about, I get a little task pane over on the right where I can fill in a lot more information about that task, including creating subtasks. I mean, wholly organized, because over here on the right, I have subtasks for this one task inside this group called Create an Amazing YouTube Video. I mean, that's really organized. But you can add other things like reminders, due dates, repeats. You can assign your tasks to other people. You can categorize each task. You can mark things as important. There's something called My Day. I won't bother getting into that right now. That's pretty cool in To-Do. But it's like a big step up from just your typical task list in Outlook. To-Do is more for your own personal tasks. Even though you can assign them to other people, it's seen more for your own personal use. Whereas if I go to Planner, Microsoft Planner is a way of collaborating with other people when you have projects, but you don't want to go to Microsoft Project. You don't want to go that far, but you need something more robust or more powerful than a simple task list. That's what Planner is. And I've created a plan that I'm going to load down here called YouTube channel. And when I load it, you're going to see a board. So I'm on my board, my YouTube channel board, and it's like a Kanban board. If you guys know anything about Kanban, which is like a visual board for workflow. So it's a visual way of doing your tasks. You don't see a Gantt chart, but what you see is different little cards per task. So I've already created, I have what's called buckets, which are columns of information. So each column is a bucket. So I've split it up into a webinar bucket. It's up to you how you do this. A tips and tricks bucket, a how-to videos bucket. And within the buckets, I have individual tasks that I have to do. And then when I click on a task, so for example, I have to, for webinars, I want to create a webinar for our Power Apps. When I click on that, it's almost like it flips the card over, and then you have all the information that you can fill in here. You can even add kind of like your groups with your subtasks. You can add subtasks for that task. You can add labels to color code things. You can assign people to tasks. And what's kind of neat is that you can give people access to your board. So I can assign members to a board. So up in the top right, I could go to members and assign people from my 365 organization to this board. And as soon as I assign them, they have access to the board. They can add tasks or move tasks. You can drag tasks around. And then you can reorganize your board by filtering and grouping. So up in the top right corner, I could filter my board and see tasks that are late or due next week. You could go by priority, progress, labels, or you could group. So I want, instead of grouping it by the buckets, webinars, tips and tricks, how-to videos, I could group it by, how about the labels? The labels are these little colored labels that I just added. So if I group it by labels, now I can see all the tasks I have to do for Excel, all the tasks for Outlook, all the tasks for Teams. It's a different way of working. But I could put it back to do it by bucket. But it's more of a collaborative thing with other people. You could create a board that's just for yourself. Oh, Chris, you checked. There's no easy way to print Teams from a desktop. It's a little bit easier. Teams online. Oh, okay. Work in the channel, but on chat. No, let's print files into. I'm surprised they didn't make it easy to print from Teams. Thanks for checking for me, Chris. That's too bad, though. That's bad news. Okay, guys. So now we're going to get, I like this collaboration thing. I like when you guys do that with the webinars like that. So now we're going to get to the gray areas. So we have I think it's 5 different gray areas. I'm going to talk about if you have to do things like diagrams, how can that overlap between the software, marketing materials, tables, communication, and task lists. All right, so we'll start with diagrams. So you could use Word and PowerPoint to do diagrams. I've seen a lot of people, a lot of people default to PowerPoint to do this. But Word and PowerPoint do offer something called Smart Art. And Smart Art does let you put diagrams, kind of like infographics. It does allow you to put, create things like org charts. But I'll tell you guys, they're very simple org charts. And they're simple process diagrams and cycle diagrams through Smart Art. Not complicated, although you can create some really fancy looking stuff. But the reason I'm saying simple is that even though you can do an org chart in Word, it's basic. And I have questions usually during Word class saying, well, how can I do this in my org chart, or how can I do that? Well, you know what? In an org chart in SmartArt, there's no easy way to do this or do that. So it would take you longer to do the fancy kind of stuff that you would want to do using SmartArt in Word or PowerPoint. And yes, there is a shapes library in Word and PowerPoint where you can drag out your own shapes to put things together, but it's going to take you even longer doing that if you wanted to create some kind of complicated diagram, having to do it all completely from scratch. So yes, it can be done in Word and PowerPoint, diagrams, infographics, things like that. Visio for diagrams like org charts, flow charts, office layouts, network diagrams, like I said, home plans, it's all built in. So it comes with templates that have shapes already created for you, little pictures, little diagrams that you can set up. So in a lot of cases, maybe defaulting to Visio would be better if you wanted to do some kind of diagram software. But for Visio, you know, you're going to have to spend some money because it doesn't come with the Office application. So it means shelling out a little bit more money to have Visio installed. So not all places will install Visio for you. And if you can't get your hands on Visio, then yes, you can use Word, you can use PowerPoint to put together your diagrams because you do have SmartArt, you do have a shapes library. So you got, see how fancy you can do with your organization charts, floor plans, network diagrams. Oh, trust me, trying to do that in Word. Okay. Marketing materials. So Word is beautiful for that. Word has a huge library of pre-designed templates, like I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. So for marketing materials like your brochures, your invitations, your posters, Word is the place you want to go. And then you don't have to set it up from scratch. Like I said, you could do it from scratch because you have your shapes library and things like that. But oh my gosh, hundreds, if not thousands of templates out there. And like I said, you can even search the Microsoft website for it. PowerPoint does have some pre-designed templates for brochures, as you can see, but I can tell you guys up here at the top, these are the only 4 brochures I could find compared to what you just saw in Word. It does come with some brochures. I think these are invitations. Yeah, I searched for, this is the amount of invitations they have, and this is the amount of posters. Like what you're seeing here on the screen is the limit of PowerPoint basically. And then PowerPoint, because its purpose is to do a slide presentation. These templates are designed more if you're doing several slides, kind of, not just you're designing one page for a brochure. So Word definitely works better for it. If you wanted to use PowerPoint, you are going to see some limitations for sure, but you could if you want to. Visio, Visio, you'd have to do a lot of work to put together some kind of marketing materials like a brochure. Definitely you're going to do more work in Visio for that type of thing. But what I've seen people do is Visio has a 3D map. You could do 2D or 3D. So what you could do is you could use Visio to put together really fast and really easily a 3D map. So if you wanted to do an invitation and also give directions somewhere, you could do the map in Visio, but then you could put your map into your Word brochure. So have it done in Word, your brochure, but then insert the 3D map. So you could actually use a combination of the two. But Word would be the place to go for that, even though there's the gray area. Whoops. Even though there's the gray area. Tables, like columns and rows to put information in. There's a huge overlap here. So you can create tables in Word. Probably a lot of you have created tables in Word, columns and rows. It's built in, a table. again, you're talking about a simplified table. So it's great for, putting in names and addresses and information like that. But when you're going to track things like costs, first of all, to assign currency, you have to do a lot of manual work to put your currency symbols in, whereas in Excel, you're going to be able to just select a column and just say apply currency to the whole column. You can do calculations in a word table. So there is a way of doing calculations, formulas. It's not that easy. It's not that user friendly. And the biggest problem is once you get your calculations in, so let's say I have a calculation at the bottom that's summing all the numbers above. If you change anything in your table, so maybe the units change, the calculations don't automatically update. You have to constantly remember to go in and refresh your table to update your calculations, which is really dangerous because you could be looking at old data without even knowing if it's not refreshed. So it's a lot of manual work. Excel's built for this. I prefer to do any kind of table inside Excel. My columns and my rows are already there. Formatting is so much easier. The calculations, this is, like I said, what Excel excels at. You never have to refresh the calculations update, but then you get all these other tools that allow you to then summarize the data, which you can't really do in Word. If you create a Word table with a bunch of numbers, you can't just say, take this Word table and summarize it in a pivot table or whatever. Excel has it all built in. It's gorgeous. Then, like I said, you could take it a step further and put your data right into a database. It's going to save you time in the end, but it's a big learning curve and it's more of a setup. But if you get through that setup, if it's something that you're going to use over years worth kind of thing, and multiple people are going to use it, after you get it set up, it's easier than Excel because everything's set up for you. But I wouldn't use Access if you just needed to track a budget. Just a simple budget, that's what Excel's for. Okay, communication and collaboration. Now we're getting into Outlook and Teams. So that is one of the biggest questions I get. Should I use Outlook? Should I use Teams? So I went right to the Microsoft site. I did a lot of reading about this because I teach both these courses and I get that question, like I said, a lot. This is right from Microsoft. Microsoft is now seeing Teams as your one-stop shop for almost everything you do. From the minute you come in, turn your computer on in the morning to the minute you leave at night. It's where you're going to talk to your coworkers, like have your chats, your personal chats. It's where you're going to organize everything you do through teams and channels. Okay. Teams and channels organizes all your chats, all your file uploads, all your meetings and everything. So it helps you stay organized. You can have your online meetings. You can collaborate on files. Everything's like a one-stop shop, share your files. So why do we need Outlook? Well, Outlook, Microsoft sees Outlook as emails to external people that you don't deal with on a regular basis. It's not like a regular client. It's kind of either a one-off email or an email like a once in a while to some external client. And they're usually more formal emails kind of thing. Whereas Teams, it's not just collaborating with the people that you work with, but you can add, if you have clients that are regular clients that are involved in any of the projects that you do, you can add them to a team in Teams as guests, and they can have access to all your, like you can chat with them, share files with them, have your online meetings with them. So they see Teams as what you work with the most. Just once in a while, you flip over to Outlook. Outlook for decision email that you need to keep a copy. Sorry, Chris, what do you mean by decision email? Because when you work in Teams, there's a copy of everything you do in Teams. So I might be misunderstanding decision email. But yeah, you could be absolutely right. But this is how Microsoft sees it, just while I'm waiting. And if you guys think about this for sharing files, because people say to me, but I want to send files to people. Approval for expense, team chat. Oh, okay. You know what, Chris? Okay, on your end, yes. I forgot you did tell me that in one of the webinars. So it depends on how your IT people set it up. Your IT people have set up whatever you do in Teams disappears in 90 days. So you're right, for retention, you couldn't use Teams. The normal way of setting up Teams is things don't disappear. Things are there permanently, forever, 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 forever. So that's what stores everything, and you can always refer back to it. But it really depends, because you're right. You'd have to find out if they put some kind of retention policy on that in 90 days it disappears. So in your case, for any kind of retention, you wouldn't want to use Teams. Absolutely. So you need to know that. I forgot you told me that. But if you think about sharing files, suppose you wanted to share a file with 5 people. If you go to your email and you send the file out to the 5 different people, those people are each getting a copy of that Word document or whatever it is. And if they each update their copy and they send it back to you, you now have 5 different copies of that Word document that you kind of have to put everything together. In Teams, you upload the Word document. 5 people can work on the same Word document, make changes at the same time. You can see what they're doing, and you're only dealing with the one Word document. You don't have several versions of the Word document. It's so wonderful. But the files in Teams, oh, but your files stay. Okay. Okay, so that's how they set it up, but your files stay. Yeah, and for us, everything stays there. Thank you, Joy. Everything stays there. So we just use it for, and searching in Teams, you always find things. I never lose anything in Teams. It's so easy. Okay, but yeah, definitely, like Chris said, it depends on how they're using Teams. And then the last thing is your task lists. And you do have a lot of options. Someone access them or change it. Okay. You do have several options for your task list. So like I said, you could just use Outlook. If you're using 2013, 2016 Outlook, you have the basic task list. Or you can kind of, I see it as kind of graduating. Like I see Outlook kind of like, okay, maybe you're in grade 1, grade 2 kind of thing. And then to do, you're kind of graduating to your junior high, grade 7 and grade 8, because you can do a lot more. So like I said, you can actually organize yourself more into groups of task lists with subtasks in your groups of task lists. You can even group your groups of task lists. And then you graduate, you go to high school, and you're kind of in Planner. And Planner is that Kanban board I showed you. And that's more for collaborating with other people, even though you can create your own boards. And you can group and organize and filter your boards and assign members to boards and assign tasks. So now you're getting even more involved organizing yourself. And then if you need even more than that, you sort of upgrade to the university version of your tasks, which would be Microsoft Project, which again, you're going to have a bigger learning curve, but you can do so much more assigning tasks to people, but then linking your tasks with dependencies, which you can't really do in Planner, where one task gets delayed, it delays another task. And really see the association with costs and things like that. So yeah, I see it kind of as a step by step, but then you're going to have to do more learning as you go. Okay, so that's a lot of the gray areas. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to hand you back over to Joy. Joy is just going to take a couple of minutes to quickly show you our website, and she's going to show you some of our free resources. Guys, take advantage of these free resources. She'll show you the free resources. And meanwhile, if you have any more messages, pop them into the chat and I will cover all, or sorry, messages, questions. I will cover all your questions. So put them into the chat. On to you, Joy.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Christine. I just wanted to weigh in on the Teams debate going on in our chat. I will cut and paste a conversation throw it into Word and print it off. Also lets you format it if you need to. Absolutely about decision email. Sometimes Christine's right. It's all about what your organization has saved up and saved. But you're right. Usually as a manager, if you have something that's a decision you have to have a record of, usually you just get the person to email you, so then you can save a copy for your records. Okay, so I just want to explain that absolutely every course we have talked about today, we offer training on. Word, Excel, Visio, OneNote, Access, absolutely everything. You can access our course calendar in Great Canadian over here, and you can access all our dates and register online. And as Christine mentioned, To Do and Planner are covered under the 365 Essentials course, just because they're part of the online apps that Microsoft offers you with the license. Also, we do have a lot of webinars, and all our webinars are recorded, so you can always watch them later, where we did talk about OneNote, 365, Word. We have multiple Excel ones. On the CompUE side, you can access our course calendar here. And as Christine said, we have lots of free resources that we love to share with everyone. So you can access it here and here, and on CompUE's over here. Brings you to the same section here. Oops, sorry. Oh, I keep doing that. Sorry. Yeah, I'll click there. So please make good use of them. We have an amazing communications podcast. And I'm not just saying that because I was the guest this week. It is fantastic. Joel's an amazing host. We are always releasing free downloads. We have more coming out soon, so check back. We do monthly webinars, so you can always access the previous ones from our YouTube channel. The ones I mentioned, I'll get Mel to include in the follow-up email, links to them if you want to learn more about OneNote and 365. If you like the type of topic or content we did today, I want to show you that in February, we have a really good webinar coming up called Storytelling with Style, how you should be using Microsoft PowerPoint. And then the following month in March, we have Sweet Success, top software programs to maximize your workday. It's a similar format to this one, where there are programs such as Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, SharePoint. They're really good examples of softwares that do very similar things. When would you use each software? When would you pick Dropbox over SharePoint, for example? So I just want to invite you to those ones if these are the type of topics you like. Also, when Mel sends a follow-up email, we have a handout for you that kind of summarizes everything Christine went through today. We also have a survey. Please tell us what you like and don't like about the webinars, but we also ask if you have topic ideas for us, please feel free to pass them on to us. We're always looking for exciting content. So now let's move on to questions.
Okay, so I was just looking at the questions here while you were talking. So Linda, so currently, because of the COVID situation, most of our courses are online. And it works very well. The government departments that didn't want to do the training online before are so happy with the online training. So right now they're online, but eventually, you know, as restrictions ease, eventually we'll get back into, if you're in the Ottawa area, we have downtown facilities that you can actually come to a public training, but we can also do private training, and we can do it either at our downtown facility in Ottawa, or we can actually go to your offices. It can be organized if you have anywhere that we can do training. So we travel around and do it on
across Canada too. On-site training isn't just in Ottawa. We go on site to the clients all across Canada.
Across Canada, absolutely. And even when we get back into the easing of restrictions, there still will be the option of doing either online or on site. So you could join, and it's always with a live instructor. So even if it's a classroom training, you would connect online, but you would be talking to the instructor. You would hear the questions from the class. You can ask questions. So you're going to have so many choices. Right now it's online.
Yeah.
Had a question come up about inserting Excel into Word. Here, let me just share my screen. Inserting, yes, you can You can actually, that's a good point. Share. So you can insert things like if you created something in Excel and you want to put it in Word, or if you created it in PowerPoint and you want to put it in Word, it can be done easily, and you can even create a link to that document, so that if you ever if you ever change the Excel document, update the Excel document, or Word or PowerPoint, it will update your Word document. Basically, in your Word document, you put your cursor where you want to put it, and it's called Insert Object. So if you go up to Insert, and then way down to Object, what I can do is I'll insert the Excel file I have. So I already have a file created, so I would click my tab, Create from File, Browse, and I'm going to browse for my file. Bear with me here, completed courses. Actually, it's under webinars. Actually, I can do this one. Oh no, I'm not going to insert it. You could insert a dashboard. It's just sometimes if it's a really huge dashboard, it takes a while. I'll insert an Excel file. And like I said, you could create the link to the file or not. You could just insert it and not have a link, but I'll choose to link it.
Christine, can I ask while you're doing that? If it's linked, can you update it in Access and Word, and then it updates the other one?
Yes. Yes, it could be updated at either end. You mean like if it's Excel, can you update the Excel file and it updates Word, or can you do it from Word and it updates the Excel? Is that what you're asking?
Is that how it's linked? Yeah.
Yes. I would have to flip my page sideways because it's not big enough to show everything. I inserted an Excel document that has data as well as a pivot table as well as a chart. I could just do the chart if I wanted to. But yeah, so it's in Word right now. If I needed to update anything, I could either double click here. And if I double click here in Word, it's going to launch Excel, launch the file, and I make my change. Or I could just go to Excel, open the file, make the change, save and close it, and it should just automatically refresh here. So from either side, you can do it. So yeah, there's your overlap a little bit, where you're using both Word and Excel, or both Word and PowerPoint, or Word and Visio. It's called Insert Object.
Well, you know, Christine, when you were talking about tables, I was also thinking too, it depends on what you're doing. Like I was thinking of like we do proposals and we put in pricing charts. Well, I would probably just do that in Word. But let's say you were doing a report and you want to provide statistical information. I would probably link that from Excel because that's probably where it's been created from or downloaded to.
Yeah, absolutely. If you did want it in Word, do it in Excel, take advantage of Excel. And then, as you said, put it in Word. If you have a report, put it in.
Well, and when we talk about the Suite Success webinar, it kind of also talks about like, what are the tools you're using? Because when you work in Microsoft products, you might want to stay with OneDrive and SharePoint and some of the other tools just because of how they interact with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're designed to interact with each other. Yeah,
they are. A lot of these Microsoft products, they're all designed to work with each other. But definitely, like I said, with the gray areas, when I was showing you guys, you definitely, depending on the project you're doing, you probably want to choose the software that's going to make it the easiest and quickest as possible to do that project.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. If there isn't any other questions, then we'll end for today. Thank you everyone for joining us and learning all about the gray areas in the Microsoft products. We hope you guys join us again. Have a wonderful week, everyone.